Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Doctors Are Running podcast, where we, a group of doctors of physical therapy, talk about the art and the science of the things that we put on our feet. Today, we have Dr. Salas and myself, who are going to do a buy and sell episode. Both of us have had quite a bit going on. This might be an interesting episode. I am pretty tired, so I might be a little mean to some companies out there. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be mean to companies. But David is getting back into mileage. We're trying to have everything settled down. How's life, David? How you doing?
A little bit better. I mean, you guys kind of know I won't go into the details, but I haven't been running for the last couple of weeks for non-personal reasons. I guess not me, someone else. Yeah. So I wasn't even in town for the last couple of weeks because of something that came up. But we're back, and I ran a 3-mile run the other day, and I was sore, which was crazy. I mean, because just like I'm used to running like 20 and not being sore. So it's like, it was kind of crazy to go for like a 3-mile run at like 8-minute pace and be sore.
I feel like that's a good lesson, though, in terms of like, if things happen in life, and if you are forced to take a break, it doesn't mean you should just jump back in, because your body both adapts and de-adapts. And while it might be quicker getting back into it, you still always want to ease your way back, because bodies typically don't do well with being shocked. Like, any sudden changes typically aren't great, especially sudden ramp up. So kudos on you for having the maturity to ease into that and go, hey, I'm going to do the right thing. And wow, I'm sore after 3 miles.
Yeah, but I did 7 yesterday and 3 today. So that's now 4 runs since coming back into town.
Nice.
Sweet. Yeah, it was one of those things. There might have been some atrophy too, because there was just not much movement at all.
Yeah,
during that time period. But yeah.
All right. Are we ready for our buy or sell?
Yeah, we could do that. Oh, also NCAA brackets just came out. I know you have zero following. I don't. Such events, but
if this shoe was a NCAA team, which one? I don't know.
But Nate's Wisconsin Badgers and my St. Mary's Gales are both in. His team is a 3 seed. Mine is a 7. We will see how things shake out. We can move forward now.
We can move forward, because
we got to put like one soft sports plug in there, even if you get lost.
That's fair. I mean, it's not like we've been doing that for the life of this entire podcast. So it's a thing. All right, let's jump into the buy and sell. I am hoping that some of these, I think we'll probably agree. I'm hoping we don't, because it's more fun if we don't, but I'm going to go to town. I got some recently developed pretty strong opinions on this stuff. And so let's go over this. So our first one, in honor of I guess it's been a minute. How long has it been since that happened to poor Raj with the 100 mile? Yeah, man, it sucked.
That's a wound.
I know.
Raj, if you're listening to this out there, I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, that really sucks. Anyway, for those who don't know, Raj, who's a phenomenal athlete and also a phenomenal human being, shout out after getting to meet him at one of the ultras that Regina was doing. Awesome human being. Ran the U.S. 100-mile road championships in the Skyward X and won, and then was disqualified shortly thereafter, because technically the Skyward X is a illegal shoe. And so that kind of sucks after doing 100 miles. And I'll be honest that I don't think that shoe's that fast. And I would not take that for 100 miles. That would be difficult. So kudos to you, Raj, for doing 100 miles in that. So our first our first buy and sell question is, David, do you buy or sell shoes over 40 millimeters should be World Athletics legal?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I would love to answer with a more gray middle ground answer. I think there needs to be restrictions, more specific restrictions on the shoes themselves. Because in the example of, let's say, the Skyward X in that race, for one, ultra races never cared before this event. So it's also kind of silly. But on top of that, like, that shoe's like 12 ounces, man. Like, when I look at like the Hoka lineup and like the shoes that, I'm not an ultra runner. I don't look at running 100-mile races. But like you said, running 100 miles in that shoe for me would be tough. That's a heavy shoe to lift around for 100 miles. Like, I don't think 48 millimeters of stack or whatever it was the difference between him winning or not winning that race. And I don't think it was an unfair advantage. So I'm just going to put that out there in the universe right now. I think the weight that comes with that shoe would have offset any improvements you probably would have got from stack height in that situation. So I think if we're going to stick to the 40 millimeter thing, then you stick to the 40 millimeter thing. I'm not opposed to shoes being over 40 millimeters. I think where this gets dicey is maybe putting a weight restriction. Now, let's say if he was running in like a Prime X where it was like a 50 millimeter stack shoe and like 8 ounces, that might change things. That's still pretty light, right? Like looking at what they can do with shoes now, like you look at the Evo, my gosh, why am I blanking? The Evo 1 was
the Evo Pro 1. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 5 ounces, and all these companies are starting to come out with shoes that are like 6 ounces. So you add 5 millimeters of stack on that, you can still get a shoe like potentially even under 8 ounces, like in the high 7s, which that is a super shoe that is above World Athletics standards and would probably give you some economic benefits, most likely, if they can get the geometry and everything figured out. But if it's like well over 5 ounces, in this case, 7 ounces heavier, double the weight of the lightest racing shoe right now, I don't see that being advantageous in a way that would unfairly give someone a performance edge. I think they just need to be cleaner about what they allow and what they don't allow. I think the 40 millimeter rule was put in place mainly due to the supercritical foams, carbon plates, these super light shoes. They were like, okay, we got to put a line somewhere because people are going to go crazy with this. But people are starting to go crazy. Now that they have that 40 millimeter restriction, people are starting to go crazier with weight and with geometries. And so people are going to find ways around it. Like that's just the thing. Or they're just going to make a better product from a material standpoint. Maybe we should have a classification for, I know you're pointing at it. He's pointing for the listeners that can't watch. He's pointing at the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. Which some people have measured to be over 40 by a decent margin.
Way over.
But the way that you measure stack legally, it counts. So I don't know. It's World Athletics legal. I'm just going to say it's World Athletics legal. I'm not going to go into that one too deeply, but I think there just needs to be more restrictions on it. So I guess I'll say I'm a sell.
Ooh.
But the only reason why is because I think there needs to be a deeper caveat besides 40 millimeters and one plate. I think there needs to be some other things in there. And maybe there has to be like a weight restriction of some kind, or like if a shoe is over this weight, like it's allowed. Because as of right now, like if you run in a Nimbus, that is not allowed. That is an illegal shoe. The Asics Nimbus, a daily trainer, most of the premium training shoes right now that you would not consider a fast shoe are illegal based on the 40 millimeter stack height rule. So, and there's plenty of people running in those. And let's say the Hoka Clifton, for example, that's normally 40, 35. And they just added 3 millimeters of stack in the heel to make it be an 8 millimeter drop. So now that's illegal if that's over 40. So you run an ultra marathon in a Clifton, it's not allowed anymore.
I don't know. What's the new?
This is also me kind of just going on a rant, but they made it an 8 millimeter drop, and it was because they added 3 in the heel. And if the previous models have been at 40, even though they haven't published their stack heights, it would be over 40. That would put it over 40, even if it was 39.
They did not publish the stack height, or at least didn't send it to us. So I'm looking up really quick. Apologize for the tapping. Yeah, so it's per the internet. The Hoka Clifton 10 has a 42 millimeter heel, which would theoretically make it an illegal shoe, as with many. So you're saying you are a sell on this, on the 40 millimeter being legal, or what buy or sell on this?
Oh, wait. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah. Shoes over 40 millimeters should be legal. I'm going to buy them.
Okay.
I think, but there needs to be the caveat of some kind of a weight restriction or some maybe properties or like a checklist. And if it meets a certain amount of those checks, then it's good. And then if it, or if it doesn't meet those, like, let's say it's like under 8 ounces, over 40, Pebax foam, 1 plate or 2 plates, you know what I mean? And then if it meets like 2 of the 4 or something, then it's like probably not as advantageous of meeting all of the 4, underneath those. I think there just has to be a caveat on that. I just don't see a situation where the Skyward X is the deal breaker on a shoe. So sorry, I'm going on a rant here. I know the guy personally, and he would never, ever cheat intentionally. Like you said, he's a great human being. He is 10,000 times over. So yeah, if you're listening to this, Raj, much love. I'm really, really sorry that happened to you.
So I'm going to go, I agree in terms of buy, but for different reasons. So the more that I've watched footwear, and I know there is some crazy stuff out there that comes out that really, from a material standpoint, you can't really sell and make a profit from, just how difficult that is. So when you actually get a product to market, what happens when you get taller and taller stack heights, there's a significant diminishing of returns. It doesn't get better, I'm was holding up the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3. Like, I appreciate that shoe. I don't really totally like it. It's not something I would ever choose for a race, because I would much rather have half that stack height and have it be a lot lighter. It's not the lightest shoe. I mean, it's not terrible, but more isn't better. It's the same thing with the Primeknit Strung 2. Even though that shoe actually works very well for my mechanics, it's got like a very strong lateral bias, and a lot of people have recently commented like, oh, it actually weirdly works almost like a borderline stability shoe. It's heavy. Like, yeah, it's 50 millimeters of stack in the heel, but it's not something I would ever use for racing because it's way too heavy. Even for 100 mile, I don't think I would use it because it's just too much. And so when you start getting taller and taller and taller, either the shoe is going to be super unstable, which happened to me with the Hoka Cielo X1 version 2, where I'm like, I can't run in this. Like, I really want to, but the first version that was like 2 ounces heavier, I like it better, and that had this incredible bounce, which the second version does too, but it's just not stable. That's supposedly 46 millimeters in heel, but same thing as Rebellion Pro. They're kind of getting around the rules. And it's like, okay, so if people are getting around this, what's the point? If a shoe like the Clifton is now theoretically illegal, or why am I forgetting the most popular Hoka shoe ever? What's the
Bondi?
The Bondi. Yeah. The Bondi is also technically an illegal racing shoe by that. There's no point. Everything's going max stack height. And this isn't a commentary on that, but things aren't getting lighter. They're usually getting heavier. Then the only time they get lighter is at the expense of other mechanical things that might not work for everybody. And so that's beyond the stack height. So and then if you do some of the crazy stuff that we're talking about, like, the Evo Pro 1, the durability either goes in the toilet. I don't think the Evo Pro 1 wouldn't be a shoe you'd use for a 100-mile race because it's only theoretically supposed to be for one marathon. It's not going to make it that far. And when you get things that light, you lose some of the other economy benefits. They're really Adidas is banking on the lightweight, but I didn't find that shoe that responsive. It's light, but I didn't get a lot of that bounce that I was really hoping for. And some other shoes are like an ounce heavier, or like even the 361 Miro, which is like pretty much my favorite shoe. The durability is trash, but it's super light. It's not over 40. It's like 36 or 35 in the heel. I should know this, but I like this way better. So I am totally a buy that 40 millimeters should be legal. But I do agree with you. If there's going to be limitations, there needs to be more structure than, just how tall it is, because height there's a variety. And we'll talk about another question related to height in just a second. But I think there's other factors, and there needs to be a better definition of what's actually legal and legal. And this one factor is not enough to provide structure, because there's, just the Skyward X, not a shoe I would ever take that for. That's just me though, but it's definitely not a super economical shoe that's going to make me feel like I go forever. Kudos to though, if it does for you, that just too soft. And so I'm definitely a buy. It's not a knock. It's a decent shoe.
I thought the shoe was comfortable.
Yeah.
It's just heavy, right?
Yeah.
Like out of the lineup, it's like the Mach X2. You have the even just the Clifton for 100 miles, just running in a basic lightweight kind of shoe. Like,
that's what
I feel like I would
do.
still choose the Clifton over the Skyward X.
Oh yeah.
Is that an unfair advantage? I don't think so.
No.
So yeah.
See,
it's a juicy one.
Hopefully this is a little spicy. All right. So
we agreed and it was spicy. So that's good. I mean, today might be a little bit unhinged. We're both sleep deprived and we're both, we're doing it.
Unhinged was probably the better term that I was looking for. All right. Question 2, buy or sell. There are certain brands that will simply not work for certain runners. What do you think?
I'll buy it.
Buy it? Why?
Yeah. I'll buy it. Most companies even though there's usually a wide array of offerings now, way better than it used to be, some companies still stick to their guns on certain philosophies, and some of those philosophies just don't work for everyone. I think a classic example in the running category would have been like Ultra previous to this year, where they were a 0mm drop company. Some people just don't run well in 0mm drop shoes. You're going to have the zealots that do and love it. And it's one of the things that have made Ultra as successful as they are. That and the wide toe box and some of the other things that they stick to traditionally, in most models. But it just doesn't work for everyone. Right. And I think of another company, when you look at more on the minimalist side of things, you look at a company like Zero, there are people that do run in zeros. And am I one of them? No. I just I don't have the strength and the mobility that is required to run in that shoe. I'll be honest and say that. If I'm doing it for strides and things like that, that could be a really fun shoe to do some strides and some light pickups in. But for actual mileage and daily running, I'm not durable enough to run in those things. But some people love it, right? So I'm a buy on that. I think even just looking classically, even previously, now this has changed in more recent years, but Nike was always kind of viewed as being really narrow through the midfoot and very cinched up in some of those earlier days. And it's some people just couldn't do that. Right. And most of their shoes were that, that's not that was a pretty classic statement people would make. So it's better now from that company, but I'm a buy. I think some brands and philosophies just won't work for certain people.
I'm the same as you. I think it's a buy for me as well, that that's just the way it goes. I was on the fence though, because you made a great comment that in the past, companies usually stuck to their guns. You knew what was a Nike, you knew it was Adidas, you knew what was a Brooks, Now, and I don't know, I'm really curious to hear some insight from those inside the industry, but I feel like there's so much turnover that people move so quickly that as part of the result of that, you're seeing a lot of change, which can also be great. Maybe. That companies are developing some new stuff. It can also be really difficult for people that are looking for, hey, I want my consistent shoe. I want it to stay the same. I don't want to have to go find a new model. Where that's kind of where we are now, and we'll have a question about this. When the shoes do change, they change frequently, completely. It's a totally different shoe. And so I almost hesitated to say this, but I think you're right that there are some design philosophies that some companies still hold true to that just aren't going to work for everybody. And I think either the minimalism stuff, so either Zero, for example, being more minimal, that's not going to work for everybody. It's a great company, does great things, but it's not going to work for everyone because minimalism and that stuff isn't appropriate for every single run. There's people that just have mechanical things, or they don't have time to put the work in necessary to be able to use those safely. That's the way it goes. There's also going to be people like, Hoka, for example, typically makes very high stack height shoes.
And that's rockered. Yep.
Yep. That's how that may not work for everyone. And that's okay. Nike is going to have, a lot of their shoes are going to have a kind of a certain durometer, and they're going to compress at a certain rate. That may not match with somebody who had just found, for whatever reasons, another company kind of is more consistent with that. So 100% agree, total buy. There are brands that simply aren't going to work for certain runners, and that's not a knock. And I honestly think that's okay. You don't need to make a shoe for every single person. In fact, I think it's sometimes nice to go, hey, we have our niche and we know who we are, so that runners kind of get a better, okay, here's where kind of I am. I do well here. I can try other stuff, but here's where I typically do well, where I think that's a lot more confusing for people now.
Yeah, I think that's also part of being a brand too, right?
Yeah.
You look at apparel and things like that, it's the same thing. Each brand tries to tell their own story, their own philosophy. What makes them different, not what makes them the same.
Yeah. I feel like some of that's getting lost. I think apparel, you could sometimes see that in how things are designed and especially the artistic message behind it. But in terms of right. There are some things that are starting to blend. You're like, well, I know everybody's moving and people sharing ideas, which is fine, but it used to be way easier to tell the difference between footwear. And now sometimes it's harder, but I'm still buying that. All right, next one. And this is me being a grump. Buy or sell, no one will ever make a Stability Super Racing shoe. I'm going to start. I'm a buy on this. I don't think anybody's going to do it. We've already had like the death of stability shoes. And if anything, we had like actually 4 halfway decent stable neutral options. This is unhinged right now. We had 4 stable neutral options. We had the Saucony Endorphin Elite 1. We had the Hoka Cielo X1 version 1. We had the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, which was okay. And then the Hoka Rocket X2. So both Saucony and Hoka were doing a halfway decent job. Now, half of that 4 is gone now. Okay. This Endorphin Elite 2, it's it's super interesting shoe. It is the exact opposite of stable. Okay. It is super soft, narrowed midfoot. It's not stable. The Cielo X1 version 2, it's not stable. It is medially biased. So we have the Endorphin Pro 4, which is still like, and then we have the Hoka Rocket X2, which has like not great durability, and that's just me complaining that, this is like 60, 70 miles. I wanted to do a 100-mile review in this and I couldn't. Like it came off. So maybe I should just run in this and injure myself. No. And it's kind of frustrating. I know that not everybody needs stability, and that's not the point. And that did happen, 10, 20 years ago where everything was going into that stability thing. And they were trying to stabilize. I was like, okay, I get it. But it would be nice to have an option, right? Like the original Adidas, like some of the older Adidas Tempo models were phenomenal. They were great.
Tempo was nice.
The Tempo was great. And now that shoe's dead. Thanks, Adidas. It's dead. I mean, you just have some stable neutral stuff. It's fine. The new Adios Pro 4 is not stable at all. But yeah, I'm convinced this is never going to happen. And for those of us that have stability needs, either you're just going to have to do your best and pray that you can make it through your longer race, or like you're kind of limited to a few options. Or again, this is where people that have stability needs have to really branch out and go, what stability mechanism might work for me? Like, is it a sidewall, which there's not as many? Is it just stiffness? Do I just need the stiffest shoe possible, and that might help stabilize me? Or I have to go to town on really working on my hip and ankle stability. Like,
doesn't Newton, don't they have a distance S9?
That's not, it's just super racing shoes. Sorry, Newton. No, that
I was like,
count.
wait a second, there is one.
I said super. Super racing shoe, stability racing shoe. That's never happening. So no. So I'm a buy. This is never happening at this point. If it is, somebody reach out and tell us, but I'm convinced it's not. So buy, because it's not going to happen.
Someone
I
out
hope
there
I'm wrong.
from Adidas, if you're listening, just make a Piba Adidas Tempo, and
yeah, seriously,
Klein will be less.
I'd be very
aggravated.
happy. Shoe of the year. I don't care if the upper sucks. It's going to be just because you made it. I'll make it shoe of the year. You're just going to get mad because I'm like yelling into the mic, and he's like, dude, I have to fix the gain again. Like, I told you not to yell in the mic.
So I guess my take, I'm a sell.
Oh, you're a sell. Okay. Let's hear your overly optimistic opinion. Unnecessarily optimistic. Let's go.
So the word is ever. I think someone at some point, somewhere, somehow will make one in the next, from now to forever. If nothing else, these rants maybe will result in one, a DS trainer racer or DS racer.
Oh
maybe.
man,
I don't know. Like
ASICs.
Someone will make something. Someone will make something. I don't know. Like, because it was a thing, right? Like they existed and then they didn't, right? So I think it'll come back around like everything else. Like these trends kind of circle back on themselves. Like I think eventually we will have one. I am a sell.
I'm a total buy. I mean, so let's list these out. So the Adidas Tempo, there was another Adidas, like true stability racing shoe, and I did a review of it, but I had to order it from Japan. I can't remember what it was called.
Was it one of the ones that had like Addy something?
Yeah, it was, but it was immediately posted. I think the post was actually either in the heel or in the forefoot actually. ASICS had both the DS Racer, which was a stability racing shoe. They also had the Tarther that had a forefoot medial post.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was the black one, right?
Yeah, actually,
I
have
had
that.
a regular Tarther Edge, and they had like a stability version of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and so I actually had that downstairs still. I did a half marathon. It was great.
Yeah,
I did
is
the
that-
Pasadena.
That
I did
shoe's
a
not around anymore.
no. I did the Pasadena
I
half
haven't heard of
marathon
that.
one time.
Yeah.
What is it?
I should
Nike.
run that race. That sounds
yeah,
like
you
a
should.
fun one. They
It's
call it
hilly.
Rose Bowl half, I think, now.
Yeah, you're right. It's Rose Bowl. Yeah. So you should run
They
that
were
one.
like, no one wants to come to Pasadena. So if we call it the Rose Bowl half, people will come.
That's unhinged. That one we're gonna get in trouble for. Nike had one, and I can see it in my mind. It had a medial post in the heel. Saucony obviously had the fast switch, which is phenomenal, but yeah, those are all gone. So a lot of people had it, but I'd love to be hopeful, but I'm in a grumpy mood, so I think I'm still a buy. No one will ever do it, but maybe I'd be hopeful later after I've had some sleep. All right. Buy or sell highly flexible racing shoes. Now, do we want to clarify this as super racing shoes or just highly flexible racing shoes in general?
Just racing shoes in general.
All right, just
I think
racing
it's
shoes.
fine.
All right, go.
Yeah, I'm a buy. I think it gives people more options. Some people don't respond as well to these super stiff plated shoes. And I think of some of the people that in the past, like you had shoes like the Hoka Reiki, you had even things like the Nike Streak LTs and some of those like lower profile, quicker kind of feeling shoes that I'm thinking more like high school, college kind of right now. Obviously things have kind of changed now that we have the Vaporfly and some of these other things, but some people do like that feeling of just kind of flexible forefoot with a really grippy outsole. Like that, there is still a market for that. And I think even though it's not as big as it once was, I'm still in support of it existing. And especially because I really like those shoes for workouts. Even though I don't necessarily choose to race in them, I think it is still worth having them around. And I think like there's also the Hoka Cielo Road. Granted, that one is a little bit stiffer as far as a highly flexible. It's not, you can't just like fold it on itself, but it's way more flexible than these super stiff plated shoes. And that could easily still be a good 5K, 10K racing shoe for someone. And even something like the Takumi Sen, where it's a little bit more flexible because of the plastic rods as well. So I'm still a fan of having them around. I don't see any reason not to. Saucony, the Sinister, that was a solid flat. Like for the right person, that could be that could be their race day shoe, and they would choose that shoe over other shoes. It's 4 ounces. It's really flexible, but it's a Piba midsole and it's grippy. Like it's something that it feels kind of like a track spike on your foot, right? But without the spikes. So I think there's still a market for it, albeit it's small, but I think it's still there and I think it's still worth having. So I'm actually a buy on this, even though I may not choose them for myself personally.
I'm 100% a buy on this as well because of the variety. And we've talked about McLeod's study for years here that different people respond differently to different levels of stiffness, that some people are going to respond very, very well. Other people are not. And having some variety is kind of key to be able to match what everybody needs. We frequently get a question on here going, hey, I'm getting this weird symptoms in the front of my foot and I just started running in plated shoes. I'm like, if you can't adapt to it, that might not be right for you. And that's how it goes. Because if you can't, the plates have to line up with your mechanics. They have to line up with some of the biomechanics of your first metatarsal phalangeal joint. If you're asking, how do you know that? Either you get like some insane like imaging that's going to cost tons of money and people aren't going to know what to do with the information, or you just put it on and go, is this comfortable or not? The second one's a lot simpler. I'm a total buy. We need that variety. I will do a Monday shakeout on this at some point, but there was an article just published in the Journal of Footwear Science titled Effective Increasing Bending Stiffness on Running Economy and Joint Biomechanics in Uphill Running and Running on Unstable Terrain. Is there any evidence for embedding carbon plates in trail running footwear? It's from Clement Jubilee and Marlene Giandeloni. Just FYI, they submitted it March 2024. It just got published January 2025. So just for those of you who want to know how long and how much of a pain in the butt publishing research is, took almost a whole year. So what they did is they actually did outdoor VO2 max testing and on trail on a set course that people figured out. And they also did biomechanics testing out there, looking at joint angles, looking at comfort, did all this stuff, which kudos, this is really hard to control. But what they found, surprisingly, is that increasing longitudinal bending stiffness trail does not lead to metabolic power improvements during both level running, and it actually leads to performance losses during uphill running, not performance, economy, like performance.
Intuitively, that's how I feel with really stiff shoes going.
Yeah.
Uphill.
So they actually found that, like, especially when you're running at very low paces with like technical terrain, it's not beneficial. So it's, again, having options really important. There might be a small number of people that do better on trail. I know we're talking about road because that's typically where most of us run, but trail also, you can get some interesting information where you can't be like, oh, we should have everything plated, everything super, everything stiff. No, this is a great example where in this unique population, actually, no, based on comfort too, which they found the stiffer plated shoes to be more uncomfortable, which might be a problem over longer races. It had no physiological or biomechanical advantage. So there's context here. So like I same boat where I think, yeah, we need some variety. Everybody's not going to do well in a super stiff racing shoe, that there should be still some flexible options. Sweet. All right. Number 5, shoes don't need an update every single year. Buy or sell?
I'm a buy. I think if you're going to update it, make it a true update, make it and this is also kind of a tricky thing to say too, right? Because that doesn't mean overhaul either, right? I think some of the companies we've seen, when they update something, they might change the midsole halfway, where maybe like the midsole you had in the previous version is now the bottom sole, and then they put a newer top sole in for the midsole, and then that's kind of them slowly moving towards a new foam and a new experience. Like that is kind of an example where like that is a different shoe, that is a genuine update, and that's a different experience, but it's still kind of the same feel and general experience you would expect from that same line of footwear, of whatever it may be respectively. I don't know why I'm thinking specifically the Mizuno Wave Rider of 23 to 24, when they first started introducing, was it Enerzy? I think was when they introduced that, and it was like the Euphoric on underside and Enerzy on the top, and like that shoe, we loved it, right? Like at the time, obviously, like things that was a while ago, but it was an update without being an overhaul. And you see that with a lot of other companies too, like Nike with the previous model, the Vomero, doing the ZoomX and the Cush line, and then I haven't had a chance to try the new Vomero, so hopefully Vomero 18 comes in soon, because I loved Vomero 17 so much. But things like that, I don't think it needs to be every year. I just think the update needs to be an update. It needs to be a large enough update to where something is noticeable, but the general pathway of the shoe is still similar enough to its roots that it is still that shoe. And that does not have to be done every 12 months.
I would definitely agree with you, a buy on this. And I was just thinking about like, this is kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. We're not going to have as much stuff to review, which actually, like there's a lot of footwear out there. There's more footwear than there ever has been. So, and there's lots of stuff to talk about with it. But I agree, getting a shoe that was like a tiny upper change, that's not worth calling that a brand new shoe. Like it's just like a small upper thing, like call it the same shoe and move on. I think especially if you're going to charge more money for it,
make it a 0.5 or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could totally, who does that? There's a couple people that
there was a couple 0.5s out there.
Who does that? Why am I forgetting? Was it Ultra? Ultra does the 0.5s, right?
I think you're right. They have the Escalante Racer 2.5 or Escalante 2.5, something like that. Yeah.
See, to me, that would make sense. Like, 1.5, it's just a small upper update. We're not going to charge way more for it. And then other thing, an interesting little like side note, I'm not going to say who told me this, but they know who they are, and all kudos to them. Like companies end up losing a lot of money because they have a ton of products with different colorways, and then they just got to dump all of that on sale. And it's really challenging. Running already doesn't make that much money from a footwear standpoint, but like I think having stuff stick around for a little bit longer would be helpful, and also let the market sit with a little bit, get a little bit more time to analyze. And I know companies do a really good job, and there's a lot of work that not good, but there's a lot of work to going into analyze how people respond to stuff. But sometimes you just need to let stuff sit for a little bit. And I think it doesn't have to. And a lot of companies are now moving to every other year. We're seeing a lot of super shoes that you're not going to see an update for every 2, maybe 3 years, which I think is fine. Like if it's a good shoe, let it sit, let it cook for a little bit. but
let it cook.
Right? So I do agree, especially with the number of shoes out there, because there's so many. Like, you don't get better at having a ton of different stuff out there. Like, let your stuff develop, but also don't go and do crazy updates that people can't follow either. Like, there's a balance somewhere, and I'm not an expert because I'm not a shoe developer. Like, I can consult on this stuff and give opinions, but I'm not the one making the shoe. But I think there needs to be a little more consistency and just let stuff cook. It's fine. It'll come out better if you give a little time to sit on it.
Yeah, season it.
Season it. Yep. All right, number 6. I don't. This is a weird one, but apparently some people have a really strong opinion on this. Buy or sell, all laces should be flat laces. I just realized me saying that is probably going to offend a lot of people that take this that's really important for us. So I'm really sorry. I do understand why it might be important. I'll talk on that in a second. But David, you go first to save me from putting my foot in my mouth.
I'm going to be a sell. I mean, variety is always good. I think different experiences, different textures, different thicknesses of the laces, like all that stuff's fine. I mean, I kind of think of like some can be a little bit more elastic and tubular, and I know some people can struggle depending on how the pressure of that rests on their foot. I know there's some lace zealots out there who are like, I have to have it this way. Like, this is the only thing that doesn't hurt my foot. And if that's the case, I'm glad that you found what doesn't hurt your foot. But I don't think that, kind of like we're talking about with shoe designs, I just don't think that you have to like, you can't standardize like one design and be like, okay, that's it. Because then someone else is going to be unhappy, right? Like, so there's a bunch of things out there. And then you see it all the times too. Like, some people like speed laces. So it's like, they'll take the laces out anyways and just put their own speed laces in. So some people are super particular about it, and that's fine. But the variety should be out there, because even if it was just all flat laces, there would still be people irritated with that. So
I agree. I'm going to be a sell on this, even though it's going to upset a lot of people. I also do say I will understand, because I've treated a lot of people that really commonly. So you have some tissue that goes across your extensor tendons right at the top of your foot. So like all the tendons that either from the muscles that either extend your whole foot or extend your toes really pass all in that area. And so a lot of people can be really sensitive to that. The sheath that also keeps those from popping up every time you extend your toes also is over there. And all that stuff can be really irritable. There's also some cutaneous, i.e. skin nerves that go up. Nerves like 3 things: blood, space, and movement. And so if that compresses that can be really irritating. So I do understand that. And not everybody is going to respond well if you tell them, hey, modify your lacing, do a linear lace, there's not as much pressure. I totally understand. But laces usually can be replaced. And so if you know that might be a good thing to go, hey, if the company changed it, I got laces that I need. But we're encouraging variety here, even though I think I was talking crap just a second ago about shoes should not have super massive, like crazy updates, like keep something consistent. But yeah, I think a little variety in lace is good, because there's all kinds of research that goes into footwear security. So, and that's a piece of it. We talk about that. So not all of them have to have that. I get why a lot of people are really like zealot about that stuff, but a little variety is not bad. All right. Number 7, I'm going to have another fit. All right. Buy or sell, not all super racing shoes need to be 40 millimeters.
Buy.
Go.
Yeah, I that's just a buy. They don't need to all be 40. You have shoes like 361 Miro. Yeah, you have shoes like the Adidas Takumi Sen, which is phenomenal. Like, there are plenty of shoes. And like, I think, is it Emil Karius? I'm blanking on his last name. The British dude, or UK, he might not be British. He's run like a 208, 207, like in the marathon, in Takumi Sens. Like, that's his shoe of choice. He just races in Takumis. And it's like, you can run a marathon in Takumi Sens. Like, there's still 35, right? Like, it's still a lot of Light Strike Pro. So it's like, you don't have to run in 40 millimeter shoes in order to have the greatest economy benefits for yourself. So I think it's pretty cut and dry on that one. I don't know. I don't have much more to say on that.
Yep. I'm a total buy, because I'm going to go on a rant for a second. Like, all right, cool. So we haven't gotten to test this, but I'm really excited to run in the Nike Vaporfly 4. Yes, the midfoot's narrowed, and it's narrow, but Nike always kind of does that. So I'm slightly nervous, but I'm excited for the weight decrease because I just feel like stuff is, and maybe this is me being a wimp, but stuff could be so much lighter. And that's again why I like, the ASICS Metaspeed Edge. Like it's way lighter than it, but it's still got almost a 40 millimeter stack height. But some of the new versions we haven't gotten to, we've tested, just see them on Instagram. It's like, hey, stuff's getting super light again. There is something to be said, even though I just talked crap about this with the Adidas Evo Pro 1, that lightweight does matter. Like, but it's all the factors. But if you start getting into these 8-ounce shoes, like I personally want something lighter. I want to feel fast. I want to be able to turn over fast, but I also like racing half marathon below. Even for the marathon, the shoes that I've run marathons in have been like lighter weight, less shoe there. Like, so yeah, there's something to be said for lighter weight. I do understand that. I think one of the big things that companies are doing is that because shoes are so cushioned, they're basically like lightweight super trainers. And so a lot of people are able to run in those. But I think if you want to run fast, like it's nice to have something light, right? Yeah. We have tiers now. We have our Vaporflies. We have our Endorphin Elite 2s. Give us something a little bit more like Takumi Sen-ish, like moderate. It's still a lot of foam. Like that's way more than we used to have. Oh, yeah. So I think people need to start moving away from that 40 millimeters because 40 millimeters isn't special. Make it fast.
Imagine if
get your foam better, get better geometries.
Imagine if we skipped Boost. Like, let's say Adidas came out with Lightstrike Pro and the Takumi Sen became the Adios Pro.
That would have been insane.
Back when the Adios Boost came out.
Yeah, that would have been insane.
Yeah, that would have been nuts. Like, people would have lost their minds, and that shoe would have been 35 instead of 40. And no one would have cared anything about stack height at that point because the properties were better.
Yeah, for sure. People would have blown people's mind, for sure. Boost already did that. People were like, whoa.
Yeah. Boost already did it. That's why I use that as the example.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Pretty similar on that. All right. Buy or sell, not all trainers need to be maximal stack.
Dang, we're just ending on boring ones. That's a buy.
Wait. So do we want to change it? Like, how do we want to change this to create some disagreement? Arguing.
People respond to different stack heights. People respond to different stiffnesses. There's a sweet spot for everyone. You can be a Goldilocks. That's fine.
Yeah.
You find your shoe that works for you. It could be 20 millimeters. It could be 40. It could be 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a great conflicting one.
I'm a buy too. I think everything getting taller isn't necessarily better. I feel
what about trainers under 5 and under 10 millimeters of stack for daily training?
What?
Because there are shoes under 10 millimeters of stack.
Oh, that's going in a different direction I wasn't expecting.
For daily training.
Where? Who? Under 10?
Buy or sell. Under 10 millimeters of stack. Buy or sell for training. Daily training.
0 miles. I don't even think 0 stack height is actually under 10. Nope. I think it's 14.
No, well, I mean, the HFS.
The Scrambler. You know what? I just reviewed the Scrambler too.
They have some shoes that are under that.
That's fair. You are correct.
For daily miles. All of your training.
Oh, unless you're a unique population, that's a sell. There's evidence to suggest that if you are an occasional recreational runner, that minimalist running actually may be protective for you. But if you are someone running more consistently, that actually increases your injury risk for certain things. So for that reason, depending on the person, I'm going to be a sell on a lot of that stuff, even though that used to be the norm. But I think in today's world, I don't think everything needs to be over 40. I don't think everything needs to be under 10. I think we need to have some variety because people are different. They're going to respond differently. I think it's just a little bit challenging right now that literally almost everything we test is in that max stack height, which is why when I'm walking, I try to get out of it. And it's funny that my injuries have very drastically changed. And also, very well pushing a stroller 70 miles a week. But I deal with a lot more hip stuff now than I ever did. And a lot of my Achilles stuff isn't the same. I'm doing a lot of loading and preventative work but to be hip hamstring, I'm having a hard time getting that under control with even though I load it, the stuff that we run in shifts load up there. So yeah, that was a better way to make that a little more.
Yeah. I wanted to make it a little bit spicy where it was like daily mileage, training, I like that you brought up the recreational thing, because totally, like, that is a nice opportunity to strengthen some things, work through a full range of motion, have very natural mechanics. I'm not opposed to shoes under that stack height. I just, for myself, I could never do daily training, and that would wreck me.
Some people can, but I just think, that's a lot. It's a big ask
like
for, and most people aren't going to be able to do
70-mile weeks. And that would just be.
There is a time, and kudos for anybody listening. Anybody listening that does that, kudos to you. That is not normal. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that's not normal in today's population. You have to use the shoe that helps facilitate you appropriately and keeps you the most healthy. And that might be above 40. It might be below 10. It might be in the middle. So. Yeah. All right. Let's do something that's going to get BJ pissed off. So, buy or sell, Santa Barbara has the best tacos.
That's a funny one.
Dude, I think it's for those who don't know, like, we were talking in the group chat, and like BJ got really mad that we talked about like Houston or like Texas not having the best tacos after he drives down, because Nathan and I were at Combined Section Meeting, which is the National Physical Therapy Conference. And so that's the first time we actually got to see him in person. He comes down, takes us out for, well, it was fajitas actually, but we went out for Mexican food. And I think he was offended that we didn't give Texas more credit after he went out, and it was nice to meet up with us.
Is there some discussions here that I wasn't a part of?
No, that was on the chat.
Like,
no.
Like Santa Barbara, like
I don't remember maybe
Nate was like drooling over that taco that he had out here. I remember he was like, that is like the taco, like the Santa Barbara has good food. I don't know if I would say it has the best tacos. That's a very big thing to say when tacos are in very many places. I imagine Mexico City, where there is a massive abundance of deeply cultural and amazing food, would most likely have better tacos than Santa Barbara. I'm not going to go out there and say Santa Barbara has the best tacos. I just don't. There has to be better tacos somewhere. But for what it's worth, we do have some pretty good food out here. And we do have a lot of Mexican food options here, from taquerias to full-on like culinary experiences and very high-end chefy kind of Mexican food. So it's got everything from like, paying less than $1 or $2 for tacos to paying a lot more than that. So the food here is pretty good. I don't think it's the best as far as like in the world, like the best place for tacos. I don't know if I would go that far.
All right. I can't comment on this because I'm not educated enough.
And there's also Los Angeles zealots out there too, and San Diego. Like, I'd have to go and hit all of the places, like truly, like go to all of the spots and be like, okay, let me sum this all up and be like, let me get you my aggregate. Maybe we should do that. A DOR Eats tour. Me and Bach just take on LA and San Diego, and we just eat tacos the whole time. Could be great. It could be a great bonding experience.
We shift our online presence to food review. But Bach would be super happy because he actually does those.
Reacts to quesadilla tacos.
For those who don't know, Bach has done professional like food reviews, and he's actually obviously phenomenal at it. So that, it's a natural extension of Doctors of Running.
Yeah.
Doctors of Tacos.
This is the way. We bring Bach out here first, just so we can hang out. And
Bach is the only one.
LA, then San Diego, and we bring it back.
Yeah, we have to have a DOR get together. We actually get to meet Bach because so far he's like hiding from us, but he's also a phenomenal human being, and he's very busy, got a lot going on. So we will have to figure out some way to get him out. But that might be it. The DOR Taco West Coast experience might be it.
We get like a little like group bus and just like. That could be so fun.
All right, so we did warn you this episode was going to be unhinged. I thought it was going to be more like violent and us just like talking terrible things.
Me and Nate and BJ just more me and Nate. Me, Nate, and Bach talking basketball.
Gosh,
it could be during the NBA playoffs. NBA playoffs would be what, April, May.
All right.
This up, and then
since we are obviously losing our minds, I'm going to land this plane. I want to thank you for listening, and hope as always this stuff is helpful. If it's not educational, at least it's entertaining. We're hoping you can find us on a bunch of different sites. Obviously, we have stuff on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on various social media sites. You can find this podcast specifically on Spotify, iTunes, and many different areas. And then the actual video will get posted on YouTube at a different time throughout the week. As always, we hope this stuff is helpful to help you find what works best for you as an individual, because everybody's different. We already talked about what happens. Maybe everything doesn't work for every different person, but we always appreciate you coming along on this journey. Feel free to email us or comment below in whatever medium you are. Let us know what you think about some of the stuff we talked about. We want to know your opinion because you are the most valuable person and you are the reason that we do this. So thanks, as always, for following along, and hope whenever you're listening to this, you're having a good time.